Not entirely sure my camera picked up all of this, but I just changed an alternator in less than 30 minutes. This is a 2003 GMC Envoy. The Trailblazer and probably Colorado, anything with this inline 6 would have been the same. First thing is disconnecting the battery. So these are supposed to be 8mm, 8mm, or 5/16. Then you have 10mm here, 10mm there. This bar comes out, the cover comes off, and you have a 13mm tie down here in the bottom. It is a nut. Take the battery completely out because you will need that little bit of space right there to be able to get a long extension in. The tensioner is 3/8, so long 3/8 drive ratchet, or the bar specifically designed for removing belt tension. And the instructions tell you to remove the radiator fan to be able to do this, but it's not necessary. I just did it without it. So you take this bracket here off. This 15-15. There's a 15 back behind here that you gain access to from the behind side. Disconnect the wiring harness from the top side of it. It has a Christmas tree. This is a 10mm. You remove it. This does rotate, this strap here. Rotate it slightly. Pull this out. Take the bracket off, or the engine puller bracket out. The bolts for the alternator, you can't really see down in there very well, but they are 15mm. So you got one on the front side. You'll be able to see all of this whenever you take this off. So you got 15mm on top, two of them, and then one 15mm on the bottom, only one. Once you get it loose, you want to rotate it to where the pulley is down and the two bolts are facing back towards the driver's side light. Then you can take off the hot strap that goes to the back of the alternator and then unplug it. Then you'll be worming it up through this section right here to be able to get it out. There's no specific way to take it out. And then going back in is exactly opposite. You want your two bolt holes facing the driver's front headlight with the pulley down. Put your back strap back on, plug it back in. Put your top two bolts in first. Don't tighten them all the way down. Lift up on the alternator, put your bottom bolt in. The bottom bolt is hidden, so you can't really see it. You can only feel it. Make sure when you take the bolts out to clean the holes and clean the bolts. Put some lubricant on the bolts because they are still going into an aluminum head and an aluminum block. Really, anti-seize would be the perfect thing to put on them, but I don't have any. After you put those in, you tighten them back down. The strap on the back side of this specific one is a 10mm. Tighten everything down, put the bracket back on, two bolts here, one bolt on the back side, 10mm here, and then the Christmas tree there. Put your belt around all of the accessories, and then you're going to have the idler pulley left out down here. You can pull your ratchet over, get the tension off, completely off, and push the belt to the left side, or the passenger side of the idler pulley. Then this is going to be your next ordeal. Putting the battery back in, strapping it down, making sure if you have it on there, put it back on there. If you don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. Again, 10mm. That one didn't have one on it. And a 10mm here. Make sure it's in its home whenever you go to putting the bolts in. Put it inside of this, slide it onto the stud, put your bolt in there, put your bolt in here, then tighten the two down. Don't forget to tighten the tie down if there is one in there. Now on this one, it had stripped bolts. They took it to O'Reilly's to get the battery changed out, and they stripped the negative side, so it kept tripping out. I gotta put this down to open this box up. Come on, get out of there. Anywho, they sent it to O'Reilly's to get the battery changed, and they stripped the negative terminal stud off. I don't know if it was actually O'Reilly's that did that or if it was from previous abuse. Nevertheless, here's 2 new ones to go in. And again, they're 8mm, so I have an 8mm gear wrench. If you don't have new plugs, you can use a 3/8/16 and a nut. That nut allows you to jam it down to where it does not move. You don't want to tighten the crap out of these either. It will strip out the battery, then you're going to have to go get another battery. I'm not sure if I like spending that kind of money unnecessarily. So next step, get into the vehicle. There's your voltmeter. We'll turn the key on. The battery is currently at maybe 10 volts or 12 volts. I don't know, that meter is weird. It's doing its job. This alternator had a bad diode in it, so it kept killing the battery. Right around 14 volts at idle with no stress on the battery is the best way to go with it. We'll let it sit here and warm up for a few minutes and see if when it gets hot it changes. I'll pause and come back in just a few minutes. Okay, so since it's time consuming, I'm not going to keep doing the sitting in here and letting it warm up, but it's still over 14 volts. The needle does move when you give it gas. If it'll focus, you'll be able to see that. It moves a little bit. It doesn't have to move a lot. It's 14 volts. It's perfect. So now I have to figure out the power steering issue because it's grunting and groaning out there. Thanks for watching. Like and follow.